Alright guys, I'm going to show you a few other important things. So far we have already covered how to assign and map sounds. We learned about the concert level and the patch level. So each one of these are like files within this folder. And each of these files have their own specific settings. Just as another clarification, usually you only need to do specific mappings at the patch level for songs with tracks. So for Real Love, we would need to assign play, stop, and the metronome. And if you're playing synth, you need to map the synth. Same thing with This Is Our Time. But the rest of the songs, since they only have the piano and pad playing, this is an optional hold pad that usually Mark uses, you would only need to map it at the top. You map the piano, you map the pad, this cutoff thing, which we may talk about later. Once you do that, all of them will be mapped. So that's just a quick refresher. So another thing that's important to know. So for example, let's say one week you're coming and you're going to play at the university campus. The university campus has a different system and hardware that it uses in order to connect to play through the mains. So you'll notice that you'll hook everything up, you'll do everything right, but the outputs nothing might be coming out. And the reason is because the setting that you had it on before was for playing at San Diego State, and we use different equipment there. So what you need to do is you need to go to Preferences, and then hit General, and go to the Audio, and you'll see right here there's Audio Output and Audio Input. Right now these are just settings for my computer since I'm not hooked up to anything. But you'll notice that since you're hooked into the hardware, there'll be an option here that's Steinberg. I believe it's called Steinberg. And there's a specific university one that you'd have to have. And sometimes when you hook it up, only the output will be hooked in, but you have to have both audio output and audio input on the same, going into the same thing, hooked up to the same one. So sometimes you'll pull it up and this part won't even, it'll just say built-in output rather than Steinberg 44. And then same thing if you play at university and then you bring it over to, let's say, San Diego State, it might still be on Steinberg settings, or it might just have nothing. It might just look like this even, and you'd have to click this, and then the Sapphire one should show up, and you hit that, and then you'll see this Apply Changes button highlight, and then just apply it, and then you should be good to go. So tip number one, make sure you go to the preferences and make sure that these are mapped, not mapped, but together, and both have the same hardware piece selected, and make sure to hit apply changes. The next tip I want to talk about is the outputs. So you can actually drag this, but I'm going to drag it to show you a little bit more clearly. Taking a little bit. Recording these videos takes a lot of memory. Okay, so you'll notice here the output section of each of these channel strips. So sounds need to go to certain outputs. For example, we have piano and pad. those are always output 1 and 2. Those should always be there. And you'll notice here the metronome is output 3, 4. So that's just something you always need to remember. Make sure that piano and pads are output 1, 2. Metronome is 3, 4. But where sometimes it can get hairy is with these tracks. So synth, if you're playing synth, that's always 1, 2. Track and guide always need to be set to 3, 4. Sometimes when the concert is created, it will open up and the output will be 1, 2, but it needs to be 3, 4. And also metronome needs to be set to 3, 4. So all you have to do is just kind of click and hold. It's kind of an interesting thing. You don't just click. I'm clicking right now, but you have to click and hold just a little bit. Go to output, and then because I'm not hooked up, there's no other options than 1, 2, but you would see other options there, and just make sure that it says 3, 4. Let's see what other things that we want to cover. Okay, so another problem that you might encounter is specifically when you play at the university campus. So you'll plug in and you'll start assigning and mapping. You go here and say you want to map the piano. It's taking a little while. But basically what would happen is this would highlight blue. I would hit assign and map, and I would start moving the physical slider so that main stage would recognize it. And then you'll notice that it'll start to pick it up, but it'll start like just like going crazy, and it'll map, and then just when it happens, just make sure you assign and map it. But you'll notice each time you move the slider, it'll either go all the way full volume or off, and those are the only two settings. So what you have to do is go to layout over here. Just gonna have to be patient with this. Okay. Yep. So you'll see the knob here that says piano. You also have pad. It'll do the same thing for pad as well. So you'd have to come over here. And you'll see this type section. So just make sure that this is highlighted. Wait a second. Okay. So once this is highlighted, come in here and make sure this says absolute. Right now it says absolute because we're good, but it would normally say single value. It'll say single value when it starts moving only fully on, fully off, and that happens at the university campus. So you have to come in here and bring it up to absolute. Alright, and then you'd come back here, and you should notice when you hit the slider that it'll be normal, that the volume level will follow the level that you're moving physically. Let's see, what else do we have here? And next thing that's helpful for keyboardists is, once this loads here, I can show you. Alrighty. So one thing that's helpful to do is sometimes you'll have a synthesizer, say for something like Real Love, but you'll also be playing pad. And if you look here, if you click on these layers, these orange, or sometimes they're different colors. Just gonna have to wait for this. Okay, well, it's taking a little bit too long. I'm going to